The first time it happened, I thought I was dreaming. I was nestled under the covers, the warmth of the duvet a comforting weight against my skin, when I felt a shift beside me. A subtle, almost imperceptible movement that sent a shiver down my spine. I opened my eyes, expecting to see my husband, John, stirring in his sleep, but his side of the bed was empty. I sat up, heart pounding, and scanned the room. Moonlight streamed through the window, casting long shadows across the furniture. The only other inhabitant of our house, our scruffy terrier, Max, was curled up at the foot of the bed, his snores a dull rhythmic hum. Then I felt it again. A gentle pressure against my back, an almost imperceptible weight settling on the mattress. It wasn't John, I knew that for sure. He wasn't the type for gentle, lingering touches. He was more of a roll over and get some sleep already kind of person. Terror clawed at the back of my throat. I turned my head slowly, fear making my movements stiff and awkward. There, nestled against my back, was a form. Not a human form, no, this was something else entirely. A sense of warmth, of pure, unadulterated energy, pulsed from it. I could feel its presence, its weight against me, but I saw nothing. There was no outline, no shape, only an overwhelming sense of something, unseen. My breath hitched in my chest. I tried to scream, but the sound died in my throat, trapped by a feeling of paralyzing fear. Then, as abruptly as it had appeared, the sensation vanished. The pressure against my back lifted, the warmth receded, and the unseen presence was gone. I lay there, frozen in place, for what felt like an eternity. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't even bring myself to turn my head. Slowly, the terror began to recede, replaced by a strange mixture of disbelief and fascination. What had that been? The next few days were a blur of confusion and apprehension. I tried to rationalize the experience, to find a logical explanation. Maybe it was a dream, a trick of the light, a figment of my overactive imagination. But the memory of the warmth, the pressure, the intangible presence, lingered. Then it happened again. This time, I was more prepared. The feeling of shift beside me, the weight settling on the mattress, didn't send me into a panic. Instead, I found myself filled with a strange sense of curiosity. I turned my head, slowly, cautiously, and waited. There it was again, the warmth, the energy. I could feel it, but I still couldn't see it. It was as if it were a wisp of smoke, a fleeting shadow, a ghost of something that should have been there, but wasn't. I reached out tentatively, my hand hovering over the empty space where I felt the presence. A shiver ran down my spine as my fingers brushed against something, warm, soft, yet utterly intangible. It felt like a gentle caress, a reassuring touch, and a sudden rush of calm washed over me. The fear, the apprehension, the terror, they all vanished. I felt safe. From that night on, it became a regular occurrence. As I drifted off to sleep, I would feel the warmth settle against my back, the pressure of a presence that wasn't there. Sometimes, I would reach out and touch it, a phantom limb in the darkness, and a sense of peace would flood through me. I never saw it, never saw anything concrete to explain the phenomenon, but it ceased to frighten me. It became a comfort, a quiet companion in the darkness, a source of solace. John, however, remained unconvinced. He dismissed it as my imagination, a trick of the mind, or even a manifestation of sleep paralysis. When I tried to explain the feeling of warmth, the gentle pressure, the sense of reassurance, he would roll his eyes and say, "It's just your subconscious playing tricks on you." But I knew it wasn't. It was something else, something otherworldly. And I was drawn to it. The creature, for lack of a better term, never spoke, never communicated in any way I could understand. I simply felt it, its presence, its energy, its reassuring warmth. Sometimes, it would linger longer, the warmth enveloping me like a comforting blanket, the pressure against my back becoming almost unbearable. At first, I tried to keep it a secret, a private experience that only I could share. But as time went on, I found myself wanting to tell someone, to share the wonder, the awe, the inexplicable nature of it all. So I decided to confide in my friend, Amelia. She listened patiently, her eyes wide with a mixture of disbelief and fascination. "It's like a guardian angel," she said finally. "A protector, a silent friend." I nodded, feeling a surge of relief that someone else was willing to believe me, to listen without judgment. Amelia was a natural skeptic, but even she couldn't deny the evidence. She had seen it with her own eyes, the way I would instinctively reach out for the phantom limb in my sleep, the way I would seem to relax and drift off to sleep with an almost childlike contentment. "Maybe it's not something we can understand," Amelia said, her voice soft and contemplative. "Maybe it's something beyond our comprehension." I wasn't sure what to believe. Part of me wanted to dismiss it as a figment of my imagination, a lonely heart seeking solace in the unknown. But another part of me, the part that felt the warmth, the pressure, the inexplicable comfort, knew it was something real, something powerful, something otherworldly. One night, the feeling was stronger than usual, the pressure almost suffocating. I felt myself sinking deeper and deeper into the mattress, the warmth enveloping me, suffocating me, drawing me closer to something that seemed to exist on a different plane of reality. Then I heard a noise. A soft, rhythmic tapping against the window pane. I opened my eyes, my heart pounding, and looked towards the source of the noise. It was faint, barely audible, but it was definitely there. The tapping stopped. Then it began again, this time louder, more insistent. I sat up in bed, my mind racing, my body tingling with a strange sense of anticipation. I could feel the unseen presence beside me, the warmth radiating from it, the energy pulsing through my veins. I got out of bed and walked towards the window. The moon was obscured by clouds, casting the room in an eerie, almost ghostly light. I looked out into the darkness, scanning the garden, searching for any sign of movement. Nothing. Then, the tapping started again, this time coming from the other side of the window. I reached out and touched the glass, my hand cold against the cool surface. I leaned in closer, straining to see anything at all. The tapping stopped. I drew back, my heart pounding, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps. Then I heard it again. This time, it wasn't a tapping, but a whispering sound, a voice so faint it was almost imperceptible. "Come," it whispered. "Come with me." I froze, my blood turning to ice in my veins. The voice was soft, alluring, urging me to step into the unknown. The unseen presence behind me stirred, its warmth intensifying, its energy pulsing with a renewed fervor. It was urging me on, pushing me forward, towards the darkness. The window creaked open. I stared at the open window, the moonlight streaming in, the cool night air swirling around me. The whispering voice was louder now, clearer, urging me to step across the threshold. I felt the unseen presence reach out, its energy wrapping around me, pulling me closer to the window, to the darkness beyond. I hesitated. A part of me, the rational part, the part that still clung to the familiar, the known, wanted to retreat, to close the window, to forget the whispers, the warmth, the intangible presence. But another part of me, the part that felt the pull, the yearning, the promise of something beyond comprehension, yearned to step through the window, to embrace the unknown. I closed my eyes. And I took a step. The world dissolved around me. The darkness swallowed me whole, the unseen presence enveloping me, its warmth swirling around me, its energy pulsating through my veins. I was no longer on Earth. I was somewhere else, somewhere beyond comprehension, somewhere otherworldly. I had stepped into the unknown. And I was never coming back. I was 11, a solitary child, prone to daydreaming and indulging in the boundless world of my own imagination. My father was at work, and my mother was tending to the flower beds in our sprawling garden. The silence of the house enveloped me, a comforting cocoon of solitude. As I passed the hallway leading to the living room, my gaze fell upon the wall. It was then I saw it. A shadow. A full-bodied, obsidian silhouette of a man, draped in an all-encompassing darkness. His features were obscured, yet his presence was undeniable, his form stark against the pale wallpaper. He wore a top hat, wide-brimmed and slightly tilted, resembling Abe Lincoln's though not as tall. The apparition seemed to glide across the wall, a silent specter, before disappearing into the shadows. My heart hammered in my chest, a drumbeat against my ribs. I stood there, frozen, my breath catching in my throat. Fear prickled my skin, a chill crawling down my spine. It was a fleeting vision, gone as quickly as it had appeared, leaving only the lingering chill of apprehension in its wake. I dismissed it as a trick of the light, a fleeting shadow playing on the wall of our haunted old house. After all, the house had a reputation. Whispers circulated through our family, tales of unexplained noises, cold spots, and shadowy figures flitting through the dusty rooms. My grandfather, a man of stoic demeanor and unwavering belief, had once told me stories of a woman in white, a mournful specter who roamed the halls of the house, a phantom of a past tragedy. I told no one of the Hat Man, not my mother, not my father, not my friends. It was a secret I kept tucked away, a whispered truth buried in my memory. The fear, however, lingered, a persistent shadow haunting my days. Years passed, and I left the old house behind, moving with my family into a modern, brightly lit home. The Hat Man faded into the recesses of my mind, a childhood memory relegated to the realm of forgotten things. But the shadow of fear remained, a constant undercurrent in my life. Then, in my early 20s, I stumbled upon a website dedicated to the paranormal. In the depths of the online forum, I found a thread titled, "The Hat Man." It was a chilling account, a collection of stories from people all over the world describing similar encounters with a shadowy figure wearing a top hat. The stories were eerily familiar, mirroring my own experience with unsettling accuracy. I devoured the forum posts, learning about the Hat Man phenomenon. The stories were mostly recounted by young girls and women, often associated with domestic abuse and negative energy in the home. The Hat Man was seen as a manifestation of fear, of suppressed emotions, of trauma. Its presence was said to be a warning, a haunting reminder of the darkness that lurked within. The revelation was both disturbing and liberating. It explained the lingering fear, the recurring nightmares. It wasn't just an old house. It was a manifestation of something deeper, something within myself. The realization sparked a journey of self-discovery, a quest to understand the source of the negativity that had clung to me for so long. I delved into my family history, searching for answers to the whispers and shadows that haunted my past. The truth, as it turned out, was a tapestry woven with threads of pain and abuse. My father, a man of towering presence and a volatile temper, had been prone to fits of rage. His anger had cast a pall over our home, a suffocating silence punctuated by outbursts of fury. My mother, a woman of quiet strength and stoic resilience, had endured years of abuse, her spirit slowly crushed under the weight of his tyranny. The realization was a shock, a revelation that shattered the illusion of a perfect childhood. The Hat Man, I understood, had been a manifestation of my father's anger, a reflection of the darkness that had permeated our home. My childhood fear, the chilling encounter with the shadowy figure, was a subconscious response to the emotional turmoil that had plagued my family, a reflection of the trauma that had silently shaped my life. The knowledge was both painful and liberating. It gave me a name to the fear, a context to the shadows that had haunted me for years. It helped me understand the source of the negativity that clung to me, a legacy of pain passed down from generation to generation. The journey of healing was long and arduous. It involved confronting the past, acknowledging the pain, and learning to forgive, both myself and my father. It involved breaking free from the cycle of abuse, the shadow of fear that had lingered within. Therapy helped me process the trauma, allowing me to understand the impact of my father's behavior on my life. It helped me confront the fear, to see it as a symptom of the past, not a reflection of my present. It helped me learn to create a life free from the shadows that had haunted my past. The Hat Man, however, remained a haunting memory, a reminder of the darkness that had once consumed my childhood. But it was no longer a source of fear, but a testament to my resilience, a symbol of the journey I had undertaken to heal and reclaim my life. Years later, I found myself standing outside the old house, the Victorian monstrosity of my childhood. It stood unchanged, a silent sentinel of the past, a monument to the stories it held within its walls. The garden was overgrown, the flowers wilted, and the once vibrant colors of the stained glass windows were now dulled and faded. I walked through the front door, the creaking floorboards a familiar sound, a reminder of the past. The house felt empty, devoid of the life it once held. The dust lay thick on the furniture, a shroud of silence enveloping the rooms. I stood in the hallway, the same hallway where I had seen the Hat Man. I looked at the wall, expecting to see the shadowy figure, but there was nothing. Only the pale wallpaper, the fading light streaming through the dusty windows. The Hat Man was gone, a phantom of the past. The fear, too, had dissipated, replaced by a sense of peace and acceptance. I had come full circle, confronting the darkness of my childhood and emerging into the light of a new beginning. The Hat Man had been a phantom, a manifestation of fear and trauma. But it had also been a catalyst, a wake-up call, leading me on a journey of self-discovery and healing. The darkness, I had learned, could be overcome, the shadows dissipated by the light of truth and forgiveness. I left the old house, the door closing silently behind me. The Victorian monstrosity stood, a silent testament to the stories it held within its walls. The Hat Man was gone, but his story remained, a reminder of the power of the human spirit to overcome even the darkest of shadows. The house creaked, as it always did. It was a symphony of settling wood, a chorus of whispers from a century past. I was 11, perched on the worn steps leading to the second floor, my nose buried in a worn paperback. The afternoon sun slanted through the dusty window panes, casting long shadows across the hallway. It was a familiar scene, a tableau of my childhood. But today, there was a change, a shift in the light, a subtle shift in the air. A shadow flickered across the wall, a tall, slender silhouette. My heart hammered against my ribs. Not the normal wavering shadows, this one was distinct, solid, a perfect outline of a man. He wore a top hat, perched at a jaunty angle, the brim casting a wide, ominous shadow. My breath hitched. He was impossibly still, his body outlined in black, as if he were a cutout from a storybook. My mind raced, searching for a rational explanation. Maybe it was a reflection of someone outside, a trick of the light. But there was no one, not a single soul in sight. My father was at work, my mother tending to the garden. My hand instinctively reached for the worn teddy bear I always kept close, its plush for a source of comfort. My gaze was fixed on the shadow, a primal fear gripping my stomach. The man in the hat remained motionless, a silent observer, his presence unnerving, an unwelcome guest in my sanctuary. The old house, with its creaking floorboards and drafty windows, had always felt alive. A presence, a whisper of something unseen, lingered in the corners, a weight in the air. My mother often spoke of the previous residents, the family who had lived there a century ago, their lives unfolding within the walls we inhabited now. Their stories were a tapestry woven into the fabric of the house, a legacy of joy and sorrow, of love and loss. But today, the presence felt different, heavier. This man in the hat, his silhouette a stark contrast to the familiar shadows of the house, had an edge of menace. It wasn't a playful ghost, a harmless echo from the past. It was something darker, something unsettling. I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination, a figment of a child's overactive mind. But the shadow remained, a stubborn presence, a malevolent entity that refused to fade. Days turned into weeks, and the shadow haunted me. It appeared in the same spot, always in the afternoon, always silent, always watching. It became a constant, a source of unease that permeated every room in the house. My once comfortable space felt suffocating, a cage of shadows and whispers. I confided in my mother, my words tumbling out in a torrent of fear. She listened patiently, her eyes filled with concern. My father, a practical man, brushed it off as a childish fantasy. "It's just an old house, honey," he said, his voice reassuring but distant. "Your imagination is running wild." But my mother, she seemed to understand. "Sometimes, old houses hold memories," she said gently, her voice a soft murmur in the quiet of the house. Memories that linger, even after the people who made them are gone. She told me stories of the previous residents, of a young woman named Clara, who had lived in the house with her husband, a stern man with a temper. Clara, she said, was a kind soul, a loving wife and a devoted mother. But her husband, he was a different story. He was cruel, abusive, his anger a storm that raged constantly in their home. One day, Clara disappeared. They never found her. Some said she ran away, seeking refuge from her husband's wrath. Others whispered of foul play, of a tragic ending hidden in the dusty corners of the old house. My mother's stories, though intended to comfort, only fueled my fear. The shadow in the hallway, I realized, it was a manifestation of the house's past, a ghostly echo of the man who had lived there, his darkness clinging to the walls, his anger a palpable presence in the air. I felt a growing sense of unease, a fear that clung to my skin like a spiderweb. The house, my sanctuary, became a battleground, a place where I fought a silent war against the unseen. I tried to banish the shadow. I chanted, whispered prayers, held on to the warmth of the teddy bear, its soft fur a meager shield against the darkness. But the shadow persisted, a constant reminder of the unseen, the unsaid. One afternoon, as I was drawing in my room, the drawing pad before me becoming a battlefield for my anxieties, I noticed a change in the shadow. It had shifted, it wasn't just standing there anymore. It was moving, gliding across the wall, its silhouette a blur of blackness. The fear that had been simmering inside me boiled over. I screamed, a primal cry of terror that echoed through the house. My mother rushed in, her face etched with concern. "What is it, honey?" she asked, her voice a soothing balm in the chaos of my fear. I pointed to the wall, my voice trembling. "He's moving, Mom, he's moving! He's coming for me!" My mother's eyes widened. She saw it too, the shadow, the darkness that seemed to emanate from the very walls of the house. She didn't dismiss it, didn't try to rationalize it. She simply took my hand, her grip firm and reassuring. "He can't hurt you, honey," she said, her voice calm but resolute. "He can't touch you. We're going to be okay." She pulled me close, enveloping me in her warmth, her love a shield against the fear that threatened to consume me. We sat there for a while, the house creaking around us, a symphony of whispers and shadows. The shadow on the wall remained, its movement erratic, its presence unsettling. But as I held onto my mother's hand, the fear began to recede. In her presence, in her love, I found solace. She was my anchor, my safety net, a beacon of light in the darkness. My father came home that evening, his face etched with concern. He heard my story, listened to my account of the shadow, the man in the hat. He seemed to understand, a flicker of recognition crossing his eyes. "We'll call a priest," he said, his voice firm, his eyes filled with a newfound resolve. "We'll cleanse the house." He knew, as we all did, that the shadow, the man in the hat, was a reflection of a darkness that had clung to the house for decades, a legacy of pain and sorrow. The priest came the next day, a kind man with eyes that held an ancient wisdom. He blessed the house, his words a balm against the darkness. He spoke of forgiveness, of healing, of letting go. We kept the house empty for a while, allowing it to breathe, to shed the weight of the past. We painted the walls, replacing the darkness with light, the memories with hope. The shadow didn't disappear entirely, not right away. But it became fainter, less menacing, a whisper of the past rather than a screaming voice of fear. As I grew older, the shadow visits became less frequent. The fear that had once gripped me loosened its hold, replaced by a sense of understanding, a recognition that the past, even when dark, could be overcome. I still feel a chill sometimes, a whisper of unease when I think of the old house. But now, I see the shadow differently. It's a reminder, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, to the power of love and forgiveness to heal even the deepest wounds. The man in the hat man, he's still there, a whisper in the wind, a shadow in the corner of my eye. But he's no longer a source of fear. He's a part of the story, a reminder of the darkness that we can overcome, a testament to the light that ultimately prevails.